ask him whatever you want. So let's now go on with the Fireside chat and the discussion panel. Today with us, we have Paulo Gaudencio from our team. Hi, Paulo.
Hi. Hello. So, hello. Thank you, Elena. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I hope that you are enjoying this special Productized. I'm the head of product consulting here at Productized, and I'll be your host in the next Fireside chat. So let's connect via Zoom with our panel. Hello, Bettina. Hello, Amin. Hello, Sharab. How are you feeling? Ready?
Ready. Yes. Great to be here.
Great. So let's start with the topic one. It's, of course, about COVID-19. So COVID-19 has accelerated companies' digital transformation by an average of 6 years. These shocking findings were revealed after a recent survey of over 2,000 enterprise decision makers in several countries, from United States, United Kingdom, Germany, France, to Australia, Japan, and Singapore. In short, 97% of enterprise decision makers believe the pandemic sped up their company's digital transformation. 92% agree that transforming digital communications with their clients or users is critical. Companies in Japan, Germany, and Singapore agree that COVID-19 accelerated their digital engagement strategy by over 7 years. These numbers are amazing. I'll start. You work in the health and pharma industry with data. I know lots of data. And how did your product portfolio respond to the needs of the researchers and healthcare professionals?
Thank you very much for that question. So yes, we are in the business of science, right? We have a number of different products, and one caters specifically to life sciences, so researchers in the lab. And as you can imagine, during the beginning of the pandemic, they had lots of questions, how to treat this, how to detect it, and many others. And one of our products, it's called Springer Nature Experiments, is a big selection of, you could call it, cooking recipes for life science researchers. So they go to this data product to find the right way to conduct a certain experiment. And because we were sitting on all of this data, we realized that life science researchers interested in the virus and the detection of the virus may be served better by us with a specific solution. So what the product team did was they built within 2 weeks a specialized module on our product that helped to give the right data, the right instructions for coronavirus detection. So what happened exactly? As I said, the researchers had to find ways to detect the virus. And because it was a novel virus, that information wasn't readily available. They needed the right scientific protocol. We realized that in our 60,000 scientific protocols, we would have the right ones, and we wanted to get them into the hands of the researchers quickly and in the right way. So we reached out to researchers, did some user research, and realized 2 things. A, these particular subset of researchers had generally very similar needs to the ones we were aware of and were already catering to. And that secondly, the reagents and equipments required by these scientists started beginning to get scarce. There was a run onto scientific reagents, and researchers had to be creative what kind of reagents and equipment to use, depending on what was still available. And also we know that globally equipment of labs is not distributed equally. So based on these user insights, two groups ideated as fast as they could. Ideas were prioritized, selected, and in the end it took then 5 days to identify the relevant data in our data pool that helps with coronavirus detection and put it on a to be built necessary interface so it could be explored and used handily. And once this got live, we surveyed researchers on our platform, and the majority was really happy with the curated data, found it useful on the journey to coronavirus detection. And this case study made it eventually even on the Mind the Product blog, which the team was, of course, very proud.
Amazing, amazing insights. Thank you. Thank you. Next, you are the VP of Product at CareGuide. That's a portfolio of online marketplaces with over 5 million registered members. Incredible. What was the impact of COVID here?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Paul. Just before I start, also wanted to say thank you to Andre and the entire Productized team for putting this amazing conference together. I know how hard it is to do these things in the current situation, but I've been really enjoying it so far. So thank you. And thank you for having me. So yeah, as you mentioned, prior to leading and co-founding Bloom, I was the VP of Product at CareGuide. We had 26 different marketplaces, getting from Siri.com to housekeeper.com to petsitter.com. And what we noticed early on during the pandemic was, we like any other company, we saw a massive impact on our bottom line and our the growth targets that we had. But as the market started adjusting, we actually noticed that there were a lot of things that do not go away, right? These are the things that are core to what we do and how we function. Parents, they're still working from home, but it's really hard not to have a babysitter or a nanny if you have professional parents both working full time, or for people that live in condos and small apartments, they still need a pet sitter. We kind of saw this interesting impact and trends in how it was impacting different marketplaces differently. Being lucky enough to have more than 5 million registered members, the data emerges and you can kind of see these trends a lot faster than some of the other smaller startups do see that. The one thing that I found, and when I was talking to smaller companies, when it comes to having access to that kind of data, it's really hard to see those trends and where the market is going. As the pandemic is evolving and slowly but surely things are getting back to the state they were prior to pandemic, and getting access to wide vaccination and being able to get to that new normal that we all are waiting for. For smaller companies, they might not be able to see a trends or the patterns as fast as companies like Shopify or CareGuide can see that. So the one way that I was, when I was talking to startups, one of the things that they can do is looking at the marketplaces and these bigger companies to see how the patterns are shifting. So for example, if you go to housekeeper.com or petsitter.com, you can see an increase in number of demand and supply for pet sitters. So if that's what you're seeing, that's a really strong signal for if your product is serving that market, or if you're thinking of starting a new company, or if your startup is thinking of pivoting, if you're in the travel industry or an industry that you're just not hitting your targets and you know that you need to pivot, that's a really good time and a good strategy to look at all these bigger players in the market and see how use the data to leverage the data by scraping the data from their sites and what they're seeing and what they're noticing to be able to identify opportunities for your product. But the things that we noticed that I can tell you without the need for you to scrape the data from any of the sites is that there's a massive need and shift in demand for nannies and babysitters. There's a massive need and shift for pet sitters. People that are working from home 9 to 5, they still need someone to, they still need a pet sitter. These professional parents, they still need a babysitter. And the other massive demand and shift that we're seeing and we saw was with eldercare.com, with these seniors that they're not comfortable to go to these retirement homes. In Canada and the US, we're seeing a massive number of people that are getting getting exposed to COVID-19, and they don't feel comfortable going to these retirement homes, and they want to age in place, and they want to age at their own place. So they're looking for elder care providers, people that can take care of them at their home without the need to go to a retirement home. So those are kind of really interesting patterns that you can see by looking at these bigger marketplaces like we had at CareGuide to be able to identify opportunities for your own product.
Fantastic insights. Thank you. Again, it's data, right? In order to take data-driven decisions. Thank you. Thank you for your insights. Shut up. I'm sorry. You are a senior product manager at AirAsia. We know that this pandemic has hit strong in the tourism and travel industries. How is, in your vision, the industry surviving, this industry, travel and tourism, surviving COVID, and what are the new product innovations that that are being developed in order to help business in these industries?
Okay, thanks, Paulo. So yeah, I mean, definitely there are. First, I'll talk about how it's deeply hit the travel industry, and then some of the innovations that earlier would have took a lot of time are now happening. So about the impact, right? Obviously, travel industry has been one of the most deeply hit industries as part of the COVID. And for air travel to come back to pre-COVID times would again, IATA, the International Agency for Travel, they're saying it'll take about 2 years at the very minimum. So domestic and international airports who were earlier planning expansions, all of them have in fact shut down most of their terminals. They're just operating out of one terminal. Singapore, again, is I think just right now operating out of one terminal. They've shut down one of the latest terminals. So that's and in terms of revenue, obviously for all airlines, definitely it's a big hit, but it's also an opportunity to see if there are other synergies from that we can leverage on. So like for us at AirAsia.com, we fly 100 million passengers on a yearly basis pre-COVID times. And what that means is we have around 60-70 million people coming to our platform on a monthly basis. So how do we leverage those visitors and provide them other alternate experiences that even if today they may not be relevant, tomorrow they can use it. So we had some sort of, so there was again industry-wide innovations as well as innovations on our side as well. So industry-wide innovations, I'll just give an example. Like earlier, AirAsia.com had been in Southeast Asia, at least, had been pushing for facial recognition based boarding and contactless travel, but it only happened realistically in say 2 or 3 terminals in 2 or 3 cities across the 27, 28 different locations we operate out of. But and typically in order to make that happen, it would have taken around another 10 years. But because of the COVID crisis, all of that has drastically speeded up. So now you see contactless travel is already a reality, and facial recognition. Right earlier, it would take a lot of time for us to liaison with governments to get them on board and all. But today, luckily, all of that, those virtual borders have vanished. So yeah, and in my talk, I also talked about some of the couple of product-led innovations that we did. Like we carved out, we tried out one subscription idea, which ultimately led us to opening up a new LOB, line of business altogether. So yeah, in a short, that's what.
Yeah, it's cutting costs and maximize synergies and trying new ideas, new business models, right? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Next topic. In March, within a couple of weeks, we were totally locked down and our lives changed. Part of the teams started to collaborate totally remote. Although we already had tools like Zoom, Miro, Mural, and Teams to help us, we had huge challenges to stay productivity, to keep productivity in the teams while working remotely, keeping teams motivated and continue to develop awesome digital products. So my question to the panel, how did this affect your product teams? Please share your challenges that you had with your teams. How did your product development, your portfolio, in some cases, how did you overcome these challenges? What the word learnings, if you can share with our audience, and what are the tools that are working for you? Who wants to start? So basically, how this question, a lot of questions here, but how did impact on your teams while you were developing your products? Bettina?
I'm happy to go. Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to go first if that's okay for everyone. Well, from my perspective, there was so much insecurity, anxiety, and uncertainty. You could literally feel it in the air. Yeah, and it quickly took a toll on people everywhere. Next to that, global abstract problem which emerged, there was the specific personal circumstances everybody had. There seemed to be only two kinds of people. Yeah, one side had too much time, which is a problem you can have. And then there was the other kind of people who had just no time at all anymore because they had so much going on, kids at home, elderly care, jobs going full speed. Yeah. I lead a very global team, right? So the turmoil in US politics, British politics, India had some natural disasters going on. Black Lives Matter protests really touched a number of people in the group. So it was tough times. And what we tried to move closer as a team across time zones and across screens, as hard as that is. Thankfully, the teams had some fun ideas, and I'm sure this has been done elsewhere. Pub quizzes, pub nights suddenly popped up. We had to wear crazy hats and this kind of stuff. And it provided a little bit of distraction, a little bit of relief in that first weeks. Also, everybody went on camera. That was not cultural standard before, but suddenly everyone was there and that felt good. There was one other challenge we had. Some people deep dived so much into work as a distraction that we actually had to stop them a little bit because we were also fearing overload, overwork. Just to summarize it, yeah, it has brought the teams closer together. It has leveled the playing field because if everybody is virtual on camera and not some are sitting in a room and some are left behind, that was a good dynamic. And I think it's fair to say that we managed to keep productivity up and created some great bonds along the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. Yeah, everything that Bettina mentioned, plus the other things that we noticed and the other things that we learned along the way was around, more specifically with our product, was that, the timelines got drastically shorter than what it was before. And, with the current situation that we are going through, it's extremely hard to know what's going to happen next quarter. Everything, so many unknowns that we can make, bets on what's going to happen, in 6 months or like in 2 quarters from now, but they're probably most likely going to change at the rate that we are going and the new information that we are getting about how the new normal is going to look like over time. And one of the things that we've done and we focused on is that McKinsey's 3 horizons. So horizon 1 is defending our core business, focusing on what we do right now today and iterating on it and improving their product. But also focus on horizon 2 and horizon 3. Horizon 2 are for higher value, more long-term initiatives and product development that we want to do that do foster emerging new businesses. The reality is that no matter what product we manage, this pandemic changed people's behavior. Our users are going to think differently. They make decisions differently. They are completely in a different world. So we cannot expect what worked 2 years ago is going to work a year from now or 2 years from now. And we need to predict, and it's really about bets, like making bets on what the world's going to look like a year from now or 6 months from now, and how a company or product still can be relevant at that time. Referring to the earlier talk about BlackBerry, we've had a lot of companies like BlackBerry in the history of product management that they just too focus on horizon 1, which is that core business, core offering, and putting all of their investment in that, and not thinking about this McKinsey's 3 horizon model. And also having horizon 3 is really about these big bets, right? That the likelihood of it being successful is 1%, but if it does, it can take our product, it can take our company to a completely different level. And I know it's hard, right? Like going through this, the pandemic that we are going through, it is not an easy thing to bet on those things because the likelihood of success is really low, and we are trying just to think short term how we can get through this and make the right moves. But it's really important to still keep that in mind and focus on that. And then the other thing that's really we've learned and we are applying every day is focusing on what's necessary to be successful versus what's nice to have. There's a fine line between that mentality and the 3 horizon model mentality. So with the nice to have versus must have resources is when we look at our team, every single person on the team and the contribution has to be done in a way that it's focused on a must have functionality that we're building or must have initiative that we're focusing on. And then categorizing that in 3 horizon, we can still have must have functionalities that are being built for horizon 1, which is for short term and for core business offerings and core product offerings, and then we can have must haves for horizon 2 and horizon 3. So there were a lot of bad decisions made during the pandemic by different companies. Like for example, Airbnb decided to they let go a lot of their staff on Airbnb experiences, online experiences, and earlier they thought that was not going to be
the advertising investment.
Exactly. But that's now that they're doing S1 filing and going public, as you can see, that's one of the things that's really contributing for their growth and helping them to still be able to make those experiences work and be able to still get some value there. So that's for that. And then the other thing is around how the team works. And I think now that we're all working from home, it has kind of made us all to be a little bit more authentic. We are realizing and appreciating the fact that, there are people that we're working with that they have kids, they have, aging parents that they have to take care of, just like that person you see at the office, and we don't have anything else to worry about. There are tons of other things that we're handling. And going through this pandemic is trying to work from home, living at home, dealing with all the things that you have to deal with, but also trying to work and trying to get stuff done. That I think hopefully a lot of the teams, it definitely did help us to be a lot more, have a lot more empathy for each other and for our team members and what they're going through and what they're dealing with. And then the other trend that we are seeing here in Toronto, but I'm also working very closely with our investors in San Francisco, and we're seeing it in San Francisco, in New York, London, UK, and all these expensive cities where our product managers, our product leaders, the designers and engineers had to move to these cities to be able to get a good job. That's not necessarily the case anymore. People are moving out of San Francisco, they're moving out of New York City, they're moving out of London, they're moving out of Toronto to live in smaller cities where they can afford to have a much nicer, bigger place, and they can work remotely. They can afford to be able to still work at the best companies in the world as a product manager without being locked in those major cities. But
that is a huge trend, right? That is a huge trend. And
totally.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of companies like Shopify going fully remote, Twitter is going fully remote, and we've gone fully remote. But the prediction there is that more companies are going to go remote, but then we all going to come together through Productized and all these conferences and events that we have. And that's where the networking happens. That's where we come together to share ideas and share learnings. But I foresee a lot of companies are going to go to be fully remote very soon, even after the pandemic is done.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, we are closing our time before going to the audience questions. Sharab, do you want to comment on this, or let's move to the questions of audience?
Yeah, so Amin and Bettina had already added most of the points, but one thing I'd like to add is around psychological safety. So our team was specifically like, this was again one big challenge that we were facing. How do we ensure that all our team members come to work, who log in on every single day, feel safe, psychologically safe to work? So that was one big challenge, and there were a couple of things that worked for us. So one of them was every 2 weeks. So in this pandemic, right, like Amin said, the roadmaps keep changing and there's nothing constant. What you plan doesn't end up being what you end up implementing. Every other day there's something new you think. So we were sharing the roadmap, and we were broadcasting that every 2 weeks, every 1 week with the team. So that's one thing we were doing, and that was one. Second, we had this thing called Product Nutella, which was a meeting, product and design meeting that we did. It was like a informal meeting. Essentially, team members were open to share topics of their own in a round robin manner. So we nominated 2 people every session. We did a weekly meeting, and every session 2 people could share anything that's on top of their mind. And we also opened it up for brainstorming. So it gave a chance for people to debate, discuss, and have healthy discussions, disagree. And it was important for everyone on the floor to know that you could disagree in this time. So those were some of the ways we addressed that. And then the other thing was, you asked about tools, right? So tools, I'm not a big fan. Like, obviously today you can solve a particular thing by an X tool, tomorrow by Y tool. But one thing predominantly that dominated was communication. So whatever tool we used, we ensured that we were doing more communication than under communication.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are sprinting now. We have time for one, maybe 2 questions. So one to Bettina. Bettina, this is a question for Jörgen Munch. Are you looking for companies that need data that you could easily produce, but you do not have? If yes, how? Is this question clear, Bettina?
Yeah, no, it is clear. Thank you. It's kind of a data on demand question, right? I'm looking for something.
Just let me put another question that I think it has the relevance, because we are talking about data, and the next question is about AI. So you can answer that in your answer. So is AI really democratized? How can companies without data scientists use AI? Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for squeezing it all together. I'm not an AI expert, right? So there are definitely smarter people to comment on that. I just wanted to quickly say to the other one, so you usually will not find companies who create data on demand, but the growing number of data brokers, data discovery services, and data marketplaces can help you find the data you are looking for.
Okay. Anyone wants to comment about AI? So is AI really democratized? How can companies without data scientists can use AI? I mean, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, same as Bettina. I don't think I'm a subject matter expert per se to comment on that, but I would like to answer the other question, which was at the bottom, related to augmentation. Probably if we go back to what it was, I cannot see it on my screen. It was related to how, there we go. When we talk about augmentation, it seems that data is key. So right now, the biggest challenge right now when it comes to needing that data, kind of like Bettina was mentioning, there are data brokers that do provide you that kind of data, marketplaces that can provide you that data. But the one thing I mentioned during my presentation is that machine learning is a very creative process. One of the things with product managers and their hesitation to work on AI-powered products, they think that they need to be an AI expert or data scientist or have some data science experience to be able to become great product leaders. And that's not the case. The machine learning projects that you work on tend to be very creative. And when it comes to data collection and data training, yes, for AI augmentation, you need data, but that data can be collected in different ways. For example, what we did at CrowdRiff to find and train a model to classify great travel photos was by scraping the photos from Instagram, looking at travel, San Francisco, New York City, and Switzerland, photos that are being posted on in Switzerland about the different places that they can go to, or Germany, or France, and we collected about 50,000 photos, and we labeled these photos as this is an okay photo, this is a great photo, and this is not a right photo to use. And also the ones that were the best travel photos possibly. And we did that in a manual process, right? Like we hired label trainers, which we call them content creators and content selectors, that trained the model from Instagram, right? Instagram already has 95 million photos uploaded to Instagram every day. There's no way you can get access to that data as a startup, but you can use that data to be able to train your own model and be able to do that. And that's exactly what we did, and we managed to be able to create a classifier.
But can you do that with a non-data scientist, or you need to have data scientists or product manager that is focused on data that comes, for instance, from the digital marketing, or his background is a business analyst?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. No, we did not have a data scientist when we built that model, for example, that I mentioned. We only hired our first data scientist after we raised our Series A. So we work with our engineering team to use, like right now with Google Cloud, for example, Google Cloud AI, they have so many available and ready to go models that can be built on top of that you can just take those models or those existing functionalities and apply them to your product. There's a little bit of work required, but you definitely do not need a data scientist to do that. And that's what we did to validate the opportunity, because data science projects and building a groundbreaking data science model, we're not looking at a 2-week sprint. Sometimes it takes 6 months to develop that. And it's a really expensive bet to make on something that there's no validation done on. So by using Google Cloud AI and same thing with Amazon and Microsoft Azure services, you can validate an opportunity without having a data science team or using their models. Sure, it's not 100% of what you want, but it gives you 80% of what you're looking for to be able to validate the opportunity.
So your answer is depends. Now you can enter in this space without a data scientist, but if you want to do more complex products, you need to go on that road path. Okay.
It always depends. Yeah, exactly. But it's definitely doable to do it without a data scientist.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elena. I think we don't have more time.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're done with the time.